The night sky blazes with shooting stars, but one star burns brighter than all the rest, a celestial beacon.
It descends with the moonlight, falling toward a land of endless mountains and forests.
Deep within that forest stands a lone wooden cabin, surrounded by countless hunting traps. Suddenly, a strange sound breaks the silence, stirring the man inside.
A baby's cry, deep in this part of the forest. How? The cabin's interior is a hunter's den, a massive bear head mounted on the wall. The hunter grabs his axe. Probably just a wild animal, he mutters.
The muscular man steps out, axe in hand. Trying to rob me? You picked the wrong day.
He raises the heavy axe high and storms the location, thinking this will be over quick. But when he arrives, there's no one there. He presses a hand to his forehead, questioning his own mind. Ever since the news he could never have children, he'd been hearing strange things. But then, something impossible catches his eye. Huh? Before him, a newborn baby lies nestled in a bed of hay. He stammers out, "What is this?" In a rush, he scoops up the infant, bringing it close. The baby has hair of pure gold, and even its eyebrows shine with the same hue. As the hunter marvels at the child, his wife calls out from the doorway. "What's happening? Vincent, what was all that noise?" He turns quickly. "Olina, did I wake you?" She hurries to his side, her eyes wide. "This baby, what's going on?" He fumbles for an explanation. "Well, you see," glancing at the beautiful child, Vincent hesitates. "I think he's our son." And so the legend begins. The moment the child opened his eyes and waved his tiny hand, a miracle occurred. A great wind gathered the clouds, and moments later the heavens opened up, letting rain fall upon the land. The parched earth became lush and green, and the villagers sang with overwhelming joy. He even protected them from the dangers lurking in the shadows. Thanks to his mysterious power, peace was restored. The people of the village no longer knew hunger or fear. Yet he never stopped studying, always seeking new ways to help. The villagers called his power magic, and so they called him a mage. The story ends as the book is snapped shut. Reading again, Siran. A golden-haired boy sitting beneath a tree looks up and responds. His name is Arian Siran, age 12. The man who called to him is his father, the very same hunter from the start of our tale, Arian Vincent, now 40 years old. He sweeps his son into his arms, spinning him around. "You're just the cutest." "I'm done chopping wood. Let's head home for dinner," Siran cries out, dizzy from the spinning. "Whoa." As his father showers him with kisses, Siran asks, "Dad, I have a question. How do people use magic?" His father stops, surprised. "Huh? Magic?" He wonders, is this really the book I bought him? On the walk home, he tries to explain. Magic isn't anything special, son. If a man fells a bear with one shot, or a tree with one swing, is that magic? From a distance, 2 other boys notice them. "Hey, it's Mr. Vincent, and Siran's with him." The one in the blue shirt scoffs. "That kid's always got his nose buried in a book. He never wants to come play with us." His friend with glasses chimes in. What's with that giant book, anyway? I bet he can't even read it. He's so scrawny. Nothing like Mr. Vincent. But their cruel words reach Vincent's ears. My mom said they just found him somewhere.
He was probably abandoned for being a freak. Vincent's hands tremble with rage. How dare they speak about my son that way?
He looks down at his precious boy. Sciron. But Sciron just laughs brightly. So if you can knock down a tree in one hit, that's magic, right, Dad?
His father's voice becomes serious. Siren. The boy looks up.
Yes, Dad? Because you were such a big help today. Tomorrow, we're going to the city. I'll buy you all your favorite fruits. Sciron's face lights up with joy.
Wow, really? Seeing his son's pure excitement, Vincent thinks, I'm sorry, son, for not being enough.
Sciron, meanwhile, is practically bouncing with excitement. I can't wait. Ruffling the boy's hair, Vincent says quietly, no matter what anyone says, you will always be my son.
But Sciron's mind is already back on his book. I just want to know more about magic.
They arrive at Kriss, a city on the outskirts of the Tomia kingdom, a place bustling with peaceful energy. Sciron sits in the carriage, his eyes wide with wonder.
Wow, so this is a city. The streets are alive with merchants, food stalls, and noisy crowds. Finally, the carriage comes to a halt.
Vincent lifts him down onto the street. Sciron.
You need to wait here at Mr. Ma's shop until I'm done with my errands. And listen, his father adds sternly, stay out of the dark alleys and don't run into any nobles, you hear?
Sciron just smiles reassuringly. I know, Dad. Don't worry. But the moment his father's carriage is out of sight, Sciron pulls out a piece of paper, and on it he writes, Blue 50. A voice cried out nearby. My goodness! The boy can actually write. It was the old man from the fruit stall. The boy was writing out prices for him, and the man was deeply touched. Thank you, son. You really didn't have to do that.
The kind child replied, It was nothing, sir. I was happy to help. Mr. Mao Young watched Sciron, thinking, he's so young, yet so incredibly sharp.
And here my own son just runs around causing trouble. Suddenly, a voice called out, Mister! Mister! It was Sciron trying to get his attention.
Ma Yun responded. The boy asked him if he knew about magic. Misunderstanding, Ma Yun asked back, Magic? You mean law?
Siren held out a book and said, No, sir, magic. How do you use magic? At that, Mr. Ma Yun burst out laughing.
Oh, magic, is it? He chuckled at the usual childhood fascinations. Dragons, heroes, wizards, and sword fighting.
Seeing the boy's eager, hopeful eyes, Mr. Mao Yun admitted he didn't know much about it. Then he pointed, But I bet you'll find plenty of books on it over there. Following his gesture, Sciron saw a bookstore tucked away down a dark alley. He gasped, A bookstore?
Want to go take a look? Just make sure to come back when you're done. Elated, the boy dashed off toward the shop, shouting, Really? I'll be back in a flash. As he picked up the book Sciron left behind, Mr. Ma Yun chuckled to himself. I used to read stories just like this as a boy. How nostalgic, he thought. Now, let's see. But as he read the contents, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. What is this? Wait a second. Did that boy seriously ask me how to use magic? Sciron arrived at the bookstore, but as he reached for a book, a hand slapped his away. Don't,
How dare you touch these with your filthy hands? Stunned, he asked the woman, "Can't I look at the books?" She sneered. "These expensive volumes are not for street urchins like you. This isn't some commoner's shop. You will not soil them with your dirty hands." With that, she turned to greet a new customer who had just walked in.
Siron wondered, "So expensive. I wonder where Father finds my books." The man who entered spoke up. "Have the books I ordered arrived?"
The shopkeeper's face lit up instantly. "Ah, head butler. Welcome. Of course, they're ready. I'll fetch them for you right away."
If you sharpen that skill, you too can become such a mage.
Siran wondered, could a mage's life give him that chance? Just then, the headmaster's voice cut through his thoughts. Yes, you, the child behind the wall. I wish to hear your thoughts.
Caught. Siran recoiled in absolute terror. How did he know I was here? He glanced at his dirt-stained hands and ragged clothes. Should I run, or should I answer him?
My appearance is a disgrace. They might punish me. His mind screamed to flee, but a single thought cut through the fear.
If I don't climb this wall right now, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Hauling himself over, the boy froze, stunned by the sight before him. An old man was surrounded by a circle of children. The old man spoke. Have you come to play with us?
This was Mir Anfis, the headmaster of the Anfis Magic Academy, a fourth circle mage.
Staring in a daze, the boy's world spun, and he lost his balance, tumbling from the top of the wall.
Now, on the other side, Siran cautiously approached the headmaster. This wall separated the prestigious academy from the common streets.
The children around the headmaster gasped. Headmaster, he isn't a noble. I think he's a commoner. A blue-haired boy pointed at Siran. Hey, you're not allowed in here. A girl beside him sneered. Get lost.
Their cruel words left Siran stunned, but the old headmaster simply chuckled.
It is quite all right. Come closer. Was there something this old man said that caught your attention? Lifting his head, Siran spoke with a voice full of yearning. I want to see magic. The headmaster seemed surprised. Have you truly never witnessed it before?
The boy answered timidly. No, sir. I've only read about it in books. Never seen it with my own eyes.
The noble children scoffed. He's lying. Commoners don't read books. At that, Siran bowed his head low. Any magic will do, sir. I just want to witness it myself. The headmaster smiled warmly and raised a hand. A simple request. I shall show you all a spell that creates wind. The other children gasped in delight. Wind magic. In Siran's mind, like the others, the simple word wind was all he could imagine. Suddenly, a powerful gale erupted around him, leaving the boy completely baffled. Where did this wind come from? The gale intensified, lifting not just him, but every single student into the air. Siran floated, suspended, and utterly bewildered. While he was in shock, the other students were squealing with joy. Ah, this is so much fun. The children drifted for a moment on the headmaster's magical current. Then, without warning, the magic vanished, and they all began to fall. Panic seized Siran as he stared at the ground rushing up to meet him. He cried out, I'm falling! He squeezed his arms tightly and let out a terrified scream. Siran shut his eyes, bracing for the bone-shattering impact. But the crash never came. Instead, he heard the sound of joyful laughter all around him. Peeking an eye open, Siran realized he was floating once more. This time, he was surrounded by the other children's smiling faces. The headmaster stroked his long beard and asked, So, what did you think? That was magic. Still reeling from the experience, Siran stared blankly. He whispered the question, What is magic? The headmaster looked at him thoughtfully. Let's see. To put it simply for you. It's all right. You wouldn't be able to comprehend it anyway. But Siran cried out, desperate, Please, Tell me the truth.
The noble children glared at him in disbelief. Did you hear that?
The nerve, speaking so rudely to the headmaster. Not even the teachers would dare use that tone. The headmaster's own expression hardened, his eyes fixed on Siren.
But Saran, desperate for an answer he had sought his whole life, held his ground.
Suddenly, the headmaster's stern face broke into a wide grin. Very well then. I shall explain. It is a bit complex, but magic is that which defies all common sense.
In other words, it is expanding one's mind to discover the true nature of the world. Siron immediately asked, "If it's that difficult, isn't it just a fantasy?"
But perhaps that's what makes it closer to the truth. Hearing this, the headmaster's interest was piqued.
Is that also written in the books? The boy replied, "No, sir. I simply saw the connection between them."
Many great ideas were first considered absurd and were shunned by everyone.
But in the end, that information was accepted as a newly discovered truth. So truth is often hidden within the absurd. That is what I believe. The man nodded slowly. Perhaps. How bold.
Siron then asked the headmaster, "What must I do to learn magic?" The headmaster smiled. A clever child, trying to grasp such difficult concepts. Perhaps this boy was truly confident he could do it. But unfortunately,
You are a commoner. To make it easier to understand, I shall show you. He called for Sween. Enter the spiritual world.
The purple-haired girl with red eyes named Suin stepped forward. Yes, headmaster. Hearing the term, Siron was completely stunned.
the very space around Suin began to warp fantastically. The girl answered, "I have entered the spiritual world." Holding out a fist, the headmaster asked, "All right, now guess how many coins I'm holding in my hand."
She answered, "There are 6. He opened his palm and declared, "Correct." Siron was completely shocked by this.
How? Pushing the coins with a finger, the man explained. When a mage focuses, their mind becomes sharp enough to sense everything around them.
Superior mages can even count the leaves on a distant tree. This is the state of extreme mental sensitivity, the spiritual world. The girl began to sweat. Now there are 3. The headmaster explained that a mage who enters the spiritual world perceives the outside world with supernatural ability. And eventually, they can even dominate reality itself. It's not just counting coins, but sensing the entire situation. Perhaps anyone could achieve this. The headmaster stood and instructed. First, try practicing in a quiet place. You need to feel yourself. Then let all thoughts dissolve. While anyone can try, not everyone
can succeed. When you do, a new world will be enlightened for you to discover.
Do you understand? 𝐶𝐸 immediately replied, If I can't feel myself, then I can't empty my thoughts.
The man thought, "This boy constantly surprises me." He then said, "Will you try it? Right here."
In his heart, the headmaster wanted to see 𝐶𝐸's potential. After all, if he couldn't enter the spiritual world, he could never learn magic.
Feel the self. But what is the self? The brain? No, that is just an organ.
My senses and the reality I perceive cannot extend beyond the concept of the brain. I don't need to understand its meaning, but feel it, piece by piece, erasing everything I perceive as myself. My existence didn't become more sensitive. Only my mind remained. An image of a hand appeared in 𝐶𝐸's spiritual world. He slowly opened his eyes.
Seeing the headmaster, the man asked, "How was it? What did you feel?"
𝐶𝐸's face was drenched in sweat as he answered, "Sound. I heard all the sounds. The noble children are whispering. Of course, he'd hear that."
Oh, is that so? The headmaster sat up, thinking to himself. So he couldn't do it. Just as I expected, what happens in the spiritual world is on another dimension entirely. This phenomenon is called synesthesia. It is a neurological condition where the brain processes data using multiple senses at once. Smelling sounds, tasting light, and feeling landscapes through the skin. The headmaster approached, patting the boy's head. "Good job. If you keep practicing in the future, you might be able to hear even more sounds. All right, this special lesson is over. Let's return to the school." The children obediently followed him. "Yes, headmaster." An image of 𝐶𝐸 lingered in the headmaster's mind. He thought, what a pity. He's an exceptional child. If he'd been born a noble and taught from birth, he might have achieved something. But the world is full of talented children. After the meeting, 𝐶𝐸 climbed over the wall. He landed heavily, looking exhausted. While still catching his breath, the boy gasped, "It actually worked." He remembered that in that moment he heard a resounding boom. 𝐶𝐸 couldn't help but wonder, was that truly the spiritual world? It felt as if my very being was torn into 100 pieces and scattered across the world. In that instant, I realized I was the world. Tears began to stream down his face. 𝐶𝐸 rushed home, running as the tears flowed freely. I couldn't help but tremble before this overwhelming vastness. For a moment, I escaped my body and became nothing. While running blindly, he accidentally crashed into someone, sending him tumbling onto the pavement. Looking up, he stammered, I'm so sorry." But these menacing thugs were looking to start trouble with 𝐶𝐸. "What do you think you're doing? Are you trying to pick a fight?" One of them grabbed him by the collar and yelled, "Are you insane? You bump into someone, you pay, right?" But 𝐶𝐸 just kept repeating himself. "I'm sorry, but the thug wasn't having it. Sorry isn't going to cut it. You're from the village, aren't you?"
"Did you come here to kill me?" Suddenly, a voice called out from behind. "What are you all doing? Is something interesting happening?"
The thug holding 𝐶𝐸 turned and replied, "Lady Ami, what brings you here? Are you bored again?" 𝐶𝐸 saw her as a ray of hope, thinking, "A noble lady, I have to ask her for help." But then he realized, A noble, but she's just a child. The blue-haired thug refused to let 𝐶𝐸 go, claiming, This kid's trying to kill someone, so I'm teaching him a lesson.
𝐂𝐒 desperately tried to explain. That's not true. I just bumped into him by accident.
A man in a white shirt stepped forward. Ha! You're done for. He drove his knee hard into 𝐒𝐒's stomach. Cut the nonsense.
You think we'd actually believe you? This sent him crashing to the ground, clutching his stomach and coughing.
As he struggled from the blow, the questions came relentlessly. You need to pay up. Hey, Ankh, where's your mother?
She probably ran off after giving birth to a brat like you, right? The two thugs jeered at each other. Hey, look at him. His eyes have changed.
𝐂𝐒's face darkened as he stared at them with pure resentment. They taunted him. What? You angry now?
Then another one kicked 𝐒𝐒 in the head. You little punk, why don't you glare at us some more?
The three thugs took turns, raining down kicks and punches. Poor 𝐒𝐒 could only curl up, protecting his head, enduring their relentless assault.
He could hear them say, "Hey, hey, don't mess up his face." The noble girl from before stepped forward and spoke up. That's enough.
He's going to die at this rate. She crouched down beside 𝐒𝐒 and asked, "Are you okay?"
𝐒𝐒 was lying on the ground, but he still managed to whisper. I didn't do anything. His face was a mask of misery, helpless tears streaming down his cheeks.
Seeing this, Lady Ami said, "All right, you can stop now. Don't you have anything more fun to do?" The thugs replied, "Well, we were going to beat him up and sell him to the village down south. He's a commoner, so there's nothing to worry about." Hearing this, the color drained from 𝐒𝐒's face as he cried out in despair. "What did you say?"
This girl, Ami, looked at him and said, "A slave shouldn't have any defects, right?" A look of excitement crossed her face. "So, why don't we confirm it right now?" This only made the thugs more interested. One of them cackled. "Are you going to inspect him yourself?"
They then turned to 𝐒𝐒. "Oi, she's telling you to take off your clothes. You want another beating or what?"
Ami covered her mouth, feigning shyness, thinking,
Take his clothes off? They're serious? These psychos?
I just wanted to see his expression. Besides, why is he like this? I was just going to let him go after teasing him a bit. After hearing their words, 𝐒𝐒 completely broke down. His head bowed, his blue eyes shimmering. Ami wondered, he's not going to snap, is he? The two thugs were ecstatic, laughing with their mouths wide open. Meanwhile, a green fly buzzed near one of them. In that space, the fly seemed to slow down. The flap of a nearby pigeon's wings, even the scurrying of rats, all began to move with an eerie slowness. The space 𝐒𝐒 saw around him seemed to be composed of fields of energy. He looked around and noticed a sliver of light from the distance, striking down like a bolt of lightning.
𝐒𝐒 recalled the headmaster's words and realized he was inside a memory.
An image of the headmaster casting a spell appeared in his mind. I will show you a spell that can create wind. A sphere of energy formed in the man's hand. Instantly, that knowledge flowed strangely into 𝐒𝐒's mind. Outside, the thug aggressively approached and hauled him up again. This little brat, are you deaf? Do I look like I'm joking? But in that moment, 𝐒𝐒 remained silent, unresponsive. Ami quickly called out, Wait, stop! Suddenly, from 𝐒𝐒's body, a vortex of wind erupted, sending the thugs flying into the alley walls. He had created a gust of wind with his will alone, a phenomenon known as magic. All the while, 𝐒𝐒 just sat there, dazed.
Reflected in his blue eyes was the image of his tormentors, in free fall. They crashed to the ground from the height of a 2-story building. Only then did true panic hit Saran. The blue-haired thug lay on the ground, whimpering. While the one who hit him first was clutching his leg, crying out, "My leg! Somebody help me!"
The others were in a similar, if not worse, state. Lady Ami rushed over, her voice trembling. "Hey, what in the world are you?"
She grilled him. "Where did you learn magic?" To be questioned by a noble, Saren's fear grew. Suddenly, guards rushed into the alley. "Over there. That's where the noise came from."
Amiya clicked her tongue, then launched into the sky, soaring above the buildings, leaving Saran stunned. How could she fly?
The guards and citizens were getting closer. Someone passed out over there. He glanced around frantically at the fallen thugs behind him.
They'll never believe me, Saran thought. In a panic, he turned and fled. "Hey, somebody get help!"
As he ran, he cried out in his heart, "Father, this world is so cold." Meanwhile, at a grand manor, the residence of the noble Camus family.
Ami was still seething. Damn it. To think they were beaten by some random kid.
A man in glasses, sipping tea, looked up from his newspaper. "You're home early today." This was the head of the family, Sakura Camus.
He asked again, "Did you skip your lessons, Ami?" The girl replied with irritation, "I've already learned it all. There's nothing fun left."
Her father chuckled. "I wonder when you'll finally decide to grow up."
"Even a genius can't be so careless, or one day you'll be surpassed." She huffed and stomped up the stairs.
After she had gone to her room, her father thought it was strange. Why is she so quiet today?
I don't even have any new tasks for her. Suddenly, Ami called down to him, her sharp gaze meeting his. "Magic?" he asked, confused.
Huh? What about it? Standing on the landing, she made a declaration. "Father, do you know anyone at the Magic Academy?"
Winter snow had begun to fall. Mr. Vincent was searching for his son. "Siren, where are you?"
The scene shifts back to Sauron's quiet village, inside the Vincent family's warm home, where his mother was knitting the sweater.
Seeing her husband enter, covered in snow, she knew who he was looking for. Siron went to the logging area for more firewood.
Vincent was shocked. What? He went out to chop wood while it's still snowing this hard?
Siron's caring father held a book and said, "I'll go find him," as he trudged through the white snow, lost in thought. That spring, when I first took Siren to the city, I almost lost the boy. When Vincent finally held Siron in his arms, his son simply said he'd gotten lost. But the boy's tears told Vincent the whole story. He found a leafless tree, its trunk covered in countless slashes. An image of Siron, standing in the cold, gripping his axe. His face was covered in sweat, his gaze deep and troubled. He was still haunted. That magic I used, I haven't been able to do it again. The magic I summoned was pure instinct, but I'm missing the fundamental steps that were skipped. Then a realization hit him. I may have no knowledge of magic, but I can enter the spiritual world. Saran's breathing quickened. He focused, once again entering that spiritual plane.
Saran thought to himself.
Inside the spiritual world, I can feel everything. The sensation, shape, and scent of this tree. I sense it all at once. Deep within the trunk, Saran noticed something glowing. What is this? Raising his axe,
Saran declared. I can't explain it, but I can feel it. With one clean swing, he struck the point of most intense light.
The moment the axe connected, the entire trunk shattered into pieces. He had felled the tree with a single strike. Saran was overcome with joy. He realized, even though it was just one swing, that was magic.
From a distance, his father, Vincent, had witnessed everything. He stood there, his mouth wide open in utter shock.
What did I just witness? He thought. That was a thunderstrike. A phenomenon where a tree falls in a single hit by striking its weak point. It is named for the thunderous sound it creates. He looked at Saran with deep concern.
Meanwhile, his son was using a saw to cut the tree into logs, his emotions a whirlwind of confusion.
This is the first time I've succeeded after so many attempts, just like that miraculous day.
Vincent watched his son, unable to hold back his tears, tightly gripping the book he had brought for him. But Saran was filled with new determination. I don't need luck. I need fundamental knowledge. I will practice tomorrow and the day after, until my chance finally arrives.
3 years later, Saran had grown into a young man. He sat meditating on the stump of a felled tree.
In an instant, he rose, axe in hand. He placed his other hand on the tree's trunk, thinking, don't see with your eyes. Feel it. Then, Saran decisively swung his axe. He said to himself, with these eyes, under the force of the blow, the massive tree began to crack, slowly toppling over.
Saran stood with the axe over his shoulder. And to think, I almost went home after just meditating.
He exhaled. 5 hours had passed, as if he'd merged completely with nature.
The rustling bushes, the stirring insects, the trees absorbing life. 5 hours wasn't enough to feel it all.
He recalled the headmaster's words, that a new world would open up to him. A new world, a fitting description, Saran thought. He gathered the firewood and started for home. But as he approached his house, the sight of white horses made him stop. White steeds. An opulent black carriage stood before his home. Visitors. What a luxurious carriage. Saran quickly stored the wood and went inside.
I'm home. But the scene before him made his eyes widen in shock. Father. A man was sitting with his parents.
You're back, Vincent exclaimed. Saran, come in. There's someone you should meet. The man, wearing a monocle, spoke. I am the head butler of the 𝐒𝐒 family. A pleasure. You may call me Temeran.
How formal. Saran bowed his head. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Saran. The man stood and said, I came here for you.
Saran's mind raced. The 𝐒𝐒 family was the second most powerful in the entire kingdom. Why would a noble's attendant seek him out? Temeran stepped closer, touching him. Let me have a look at you. With one hand, he lifted Saran's face. Can you read? He asked. I learned a little when I was a child. Saran answered. The man then turned him around, inspecting him, leaving Saran bewildered. Could you explain what's happening? The butler finally spoke. You seem to be well raised. A woodcutter's son who can read. You are also a well-behaved child. Saran tried to interject. Wait a moment, but Temeran continued. Will you work for the 𝐒𝐒 family? Hearing this,
𝐂𝐒ron was utterly stunned. What?
Butler 𝐸𝐸ran explained. We are moving books from the main library of Din Manor. Nearly 10,000 volumes, including priceless collections.
Over 2 years, the transport will be handled by others.
But the classification will be done by just the 2 of us. Upon hearing this, only one word echoed in 𝐒𝐒ron's mind. Library.
He thought, if it's the 𝐒𝐒 library, it must hold vital knowledge for magicians.
But 𝐸𝐸ran added more, his eyes glancing at 𝐒𝐒ron's parents. The only ones who know of this are your family.
If a single book is misplaced, or if word of this leaks, your life and the lives of your family will be erased.
Looking at his parents' faces, 𝐒𝐒ron understood their terror.
𝐸𝐸ran continued, since your life is on the line, we will pay handsomely. 𝐸𝐸ran told Vincent, it's more money than you'll ever earn hunting. Worthy of your son's care, isn't it?
Vincent shot to his feet, shouting, I'm not doing this for your money! His face was a mask of anguish.
He said, I just want our 𝐒𝐒ron to be able to achieve his dream. At those words, 𝐸𝐸ran let out a contemptuous laugh.
Don't overthink it. What? You think the boy will have a career?
Stop dreaming. If not for the money, why else would you offer me your son?
Slamming his hand on the table, Vincent said it was because he mentioned 𝐂𝐒𝐿ron could read books.
The butler replied, Of course I said that. But I cannot fully supervise him, just because he can read. You hope he fulfills his dream?
Have you been deceiving your son all this time? The words struck Vincent like a physical blow. He remembered when 𝐒𝐒𝑟on was little, seeing him read for the first time, and asking his wife if it was true.
Olena had only taught 𝐒𝐒𝑟on a few words for fun, but after turning 6, the boy began devouring books to learn.
He looked so peaceful and lovely while reading. More than that, he was brilliant. Could he be of noble blood?
Vincent covered his face, his expression filled with agony.
If nobles had raised him instead of us, could he have gone to school? What am I thinking? 𝐒𝐒𝑟on is my son, but Vincent's heart was torn. It's only right for a woodcutter's son to learn the ways of the forest. He watched 𝐒𝐒𝑟on work in the mountains, but a deep fear had taken root in his heart. In the end, I have raised him to be nothing more than a woodcutter's son. The scene shifted back to Vincent's first meeting with House 𝐒𝐒. You need a guide who can read. Vincent knelt before 𝐸𝐸ran. Please, take my son.
He learned to read when he was young, and he's brilliant. But please, sir, can you just let him read the books?
Tears streamed down his face as he spoke. Back in the present, Vincent trembled with rage, shouting at 𝐸𝐸ran, I don't need any of your money.
If I had known this would happen, I never would have begged you in the first place.
Enraged that his son was scorned, he roared, Get out of my house immediately. The butler, 𝐸𝐸ran, simply turned to leave. Venin continued to defend his son. How dare you mock my family just because we lack wealth?
𝐸𝐸ran donned his hat, preparing to depart, thinking them hopeless. Just as he dismissed them, 𝐒𝐒𝑟on's voice cut in.
No, father, I'll do it. Those words made butler 𝐸𝐸ran turn back to face him. Vincent's jaw dropped in absolute shock. 𝐒𝐒𝑟on? 𝐸𝐸𝑟an questioned. Are you serious? This isn't an idle threat.
Be warned, even the slightest rumor could mean your end. With a calm smile, 𝐒𝐒𝑟on replied, It's all right. Please, allow me.
I will never reveal the secret. And if the worst happens, I will hold no grudge against you.
The butler gave a cryptic smile
and said, "If you desire it that much, I will return for you within a week."
He then added, "You can change your mind and refuse before then, and all is well.
But once you enter the mansion, know there is no leaving until this is over." With that, he turned and departed in his carriage.
The moment he was gone, Vincent cried out, "Siran, why did you agree to such a demand?"
Those monsters just need someone to die in their place. This is my fault. I will take responsibility. Please refuse them now." But as his father pleaded, Siran simply spoke. "Father," he said, holding out his arms.
With tears in his eyes, he continued, "Thank you for giving me such a great gift." His father's face darkened as tears began to fall.
Siran fell into his father's arms, sobbing. The man hugged his precious adopted son and soothed him. "Don't you worry, Siran."
Do you think your father can't protect you? More tears streamed from Vincent's eyes as he offered a blessing to Siran.
"You must return safely. I swear, they won't lay a finger on this family."
Looking at his wife's tears, Vincent thought to himself, "Siren, did I raise you well?" As for Siran, in that moment, he was overwhelmed by the warmth of his father's love. A week later, men from the Orient clan arrived. They handed Vincent a paper and ordered, "Sign here." "Yes. All right." The instant Vincent signed, before he could even read the contents, a man snatched the paper away. These were the two men who had come for Siran.
The stout man beside him urged, "Time is wasting every second. Let's go." Another man guided the boy to the carriage.
"This way. Leave your luggage here." As the door of the grand carriage shut, a new path opened for Siran. Inside the carriage, he sat silently, lost in his thoughts. Closing his eyes, he entered his spiritual world and saw his parents. They were devastated by his departure. Siran's own heart ached in silence. He raised his hand, wanting to touch the image of his parents, but it was impossible. The carriage wheels rumbled on the uneven road. The moment his hand nearly reached his parents, the vision shattered.
He snapped back to reality, clutching his own hand. He told himself, "Do not tremble. Do not retreat."
This is the only chance of a lifetime. A true double-edged sword. As his thoughts settled, the carriage sped onward.
Inside the carriage, Siran closed his eyes to ponder, surrounded by people of boundless power.
Could he possibly survive intact for 2 years? His destination was the Thomia kingdom.
The main house of the Oberant clan was located within Chris Castle. The nearby capital, Basuka, was home to a warrior clan that produced master swordsmen. The man in black, accompanying him, began to explain about the family head. The previous head was a 3rd-rank master swordsman. The current one, Bishop Ocean, is a 4th-rank master knight. In short, they control all powerful forces in the city. Then he gestured out the window. And that is the famous Grand Road of the Orient clan. Before Siran was a mansion, approached by a long row of trees, their leaves turned gold by the sun, setting behind the distant mountains.
Seeing this magnificent view,
Siran could only stare wide-eyed and mutter, "Whoa." The guide noticed his awestruck expression and asked, "Are you scared?"
This clan is filled with nothing but monsters. The stout man in front quickly warned him, "Watch your mouth. Do you have a death wish?" The other man immediately turned back to Siran. "Let's go. We need to head this way." As he looked all around him, Siran thought to himself,
Now this feels much more real.
Looking at the mansion ahead, he knew this was the home of a second-rank noble house, the 𝐒𝐒 clan. Their crest was a horse and a greatsword, a symbol of knights.
The two men led Saran to another building on the estate. This is the administration office and the butler's lounge. You will also stay here.
As he stepped inside, Tamaran was already there. You've arrived. We don't have time for introductions.
He held a book in his hand and stated, I will explain the tasks you need to perform. Follow me.
Siran bowed his head. I will do my very best. The man then led Siran to a certain place.
The moment the wooden doors creaked open, Siran's world shifted. Before him, an ocean of books lined endless shelves. He'd never seen so many, and the sight was utterly overwhelming.
This was the great library of the 𝐒𝐒 family.
Tamaran explained his duties. These countless books were to be moved to a new library, and Siran's sole mission was to organize them.
Each week, he would receive a list of titles to find and gather. His work hours were from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Outside that time, he was free, but leaving the grounds was forbidden, as was entering the manor without special permission.
The man handed him a stack of papers. The other butlers will teach you the proper etiquette.
Any questions? Staring at this treasure trove of knowledge, Siran thought, this is worth risking my life for.
He found his voice. When do I begin? Tamaran's reply was immediate. Tomorrow.
The next morning, dressed in a new uniform, Siran began his work, placing the thick stack of documents on the desk.
As he read through them, he instantly understood why this monumental task was entrusted to a single person. The organization's standards had to be perfectly consistent. For instance, a book titled The History of Swordsmanship. One person might file under Professional Sword Arts, while another would place it in Comprehensive History.
Siran took notes, his mind racing.
He soon realized a profound truth. All knowledge was an endless, interconnected cycle, and the core that linked everything together was history.
In Siran's mind, knowledge was a structure built upon the foundation of history.
History was the very backbone of learning. If I master history first, he realized, my learning speed in all other fields will increase dramatically.
Among the 10,000 books, about 850 were historical texts.
In my 2 years here, I'll read them all. That is my path to becoming a mage.
He quickly snapped the book shut. I can't let anyone see me reading. I'm not supposed to be doing this.
The head butler, Tamaran, appeared holding a paper. Have you completed your arrangements?
Working overtime again, I see. Siran stood rigidly, not daring to bow. Yes, sir.
The butler advised him, you have a long road ahead. Don't exhaust yourself so quickly.
You must take full responsibility for your actions. Siran replied seriously, I assure you, I will not, sir.
Suddenly, Tamaran's gaze fixed on him, and he strode forward, unnerving Siran. What is it? The butler leaned in close, and a spike of fear shot through the boy.
Did he catch me reading after hours? Siran's eyes steeled, ready to accept his punishment.
But the butler simply brushed a speck of dust from his uniform.
The family head and the young masters also visit this library. Pay attention to your uniform. You must not degrade the name of the 𝐒𝐒 family.
Then he gestured toward Siran's head. And do something about that long hair.
Yes, sir, Siran replied hastily. Still trembling, he collected himself. Have a good evening. Inwardly, he let out a huge sigh of relief.
So, that's all it was.
For the next 2 years, I must be careful. I can't afford any trouble.
Maybe I should tie my hair up, like my father used to.
Late into the night, Saran pored over a book, but a new problem arose. He felt helpless against the dense text. This is too difficult. The history of the 3 emperors.
And the 7 kingdoms. Just understanding the Tamia kingdom is this hard. How can I possibly learn all of this?
He wondered, do I really need to memorize every single detail?
No. To truly command a book's knowledge at any time, I must understand every event with perfect clarity.
His eyelids grew heavy, but his mind screamed for just one more line. Inevitably, he fell asleep on the very books he was studying.
A hand reached down and lifted the book from his face. It was Tumurin. Making his rounds with a lantern, he saw the boy and sighed. Ah, what an idiot. Stuck on this one book for an entire month.
Do you truly think you can succeed through study alone?
If you were reading more practical texts, I'd have banned you from here after hours already. But he let Saran sleep, turning to walk away.
Luckily, he's just a fool with a strong will. 3 months passed since Saran began working in the great library of the 𝐻𝐿 family. In the morning, Saran began his work, with his hair tied back neatly. A visitor approached him. Saran, have you sorted those books? Saran replied brightly, Yes, sir.
You may take the entire set. Saran was slowly growing accustomed to the classification work. He also learned many other things from the maids.
The man in the hat picked up a book and said, Ah, I'll be borrowing this one.
Saran immediately responded, Isn't the second young master borrowing this book as well? He glanced at the inventory list, but he hasn't returned the last one he borrowed.
If you were to lose this one, it might become a bit of a problem.
The man scratched his head, admitting it was true. I keep asking him about it, but he insists he'll return it himself. Flustered, the man scratched his head again.
To be honest, the nobles don't care if a book goes missing. It's only the butlers like us who have to worry about these things.
Saran understood the shocking truth. They didn't even care if a book's contents were leaked. He figured there probably weren't any truly important books in a library like this anyway.
The man added, But don't you dare tell anyone I said that. With that, he turned to leave. I'm heading back. Keep up the good work. As Saran bowed, a thought crossed his mind. But that doesn't mean I'm any safer. A noble only appears relaxed if they genuinely care for the common folk. And the nobility, they don't even remember the life-threatening tasks their people perform for them.
He recalled Tamaran's words, You'll lose your head. Servants couldn't afford a single mistake, which had made them cold and emotionless.
With that thought, he lowered his head once more. He scribbled something down, muttering, Whether the nobles care or not is irrelevant. Living a quiet life is for the best. Suddenly, a young man burst into the library, swearing under his breath.
Damn it, that blasted old man. This threw Saran for a loop. What in the world is happening now?
A blue-haired boy, his eyes darting around nervously, trembled and said, On a day like this, surely no one would mind if I relaxed a little.
Saran recognized that blue hair. It was Rian, the youngest son of Count Rian Owen. A voice echoed from outside, searching for him.
Rian, how dare you run away?
When I catch you, you'll run another 100 laps. This sent Rian into a panic.
Ah, damn it! Rian approached Saran with a threatening tone. Hey, you! Don't you
dare tell him I'm here. Got it.
As the young master stood right beside him, 𝐶 couldn't help but think, "He's huge." The boy immediately dove under 𝐶 desk. The calls for him grew louder. "Rian!" Then an old man with a long black beard stormed in, roaring with fury. "I know you're hiding in here." He immediately turned to 𝐶.
Hey, you. A pea-sized, blue-haired brat just came in here, right? Hearing this question, 𝐶 was completely bewildered.
If that kid is pea-sized, then what does that make me in this old man's eyes? He began to sweat.
𝐶 summoned his courage and asked, "I believe he resembles the young master, but forgive me, who might you be?" The old man gritted his teeth. "I am his sword instructor, and I have every right to beat that little pea to a pulp, understand? You'd better tell me where he is, unless you want an early grave."
𝐶 nodded. "I understand." He then pointed under the desk. "The young master is hiding beneath that bookshelf over there." Ryan screamed in fury.
"Hey, are you insane? Do you want to die?" In an instant, the old man dragged him out. Rian hastily tried to explain, "Master, this is all just a misunderstanding." But the man just growled, "A misunderstanding?" Ryan was then dragged away violently. Just watching the scene was terrifying enough for 𝐶. The old man dragged the youngest son, Rian, by his leg, a look of helplessness on the boy's face. "Come with me, you slacker. You need to be taught a lesson." Even as he was being dragged, Rian shot a hateful glare back at 𝐶. "You will pay for this." 𝐶 could only think blankly. When the teacher has more power than the master, I only had one choice. Rumor has it he was taken to the mountains for training.
Another month passed. The first book had taken him 20 days to finish.
But after fully understanding that first volume, 𝐶 read through the rest with incredible focus. He finished a total of 82 books in 4 months.
Lost in his reading, he thought, just as I expected. Only the beginning is difficult.
No single book contains entirely new information. If I build a foundation with the first 200 books, the remaining 650 will be much easier to absorb.
As 𝐶 read books on the history and origins of magic,
A question began to form in his mind. Is learning the history of magic the right choice at this moment?
but having already studied the formation of all things, he grew more certain that this was the correct path. A scholar creates a theorem, and a mage does the same. But a mage must also bring that theory into reality and apply it practically. Therefore, a mage is in essence a scholar. However, not all scholars can be mages, because they cannot enter that state of unfeeling consciousness, the spiritual domain.
It felt as if everything had suddenly clicked. He gently closed the book, thinking, with my spiritual domain, if I absorb the vast knowledge contained in these books.
Glancing at the stack of books on the table, he excitedly thought he might become a real mage. Suddenly, the library doors burst open as Ran roared Siron's name. "You bastard!" He looked furious, his eyes wide and his teeth clenched in a snarl. "I clawed my way through hell for this day." This made Siron mutter, "So persistent." Then he asked, "Are you really here because of that incident?" Ran angrily shot back, "What else would it be for?" A smug grin spread across his face. "Do you have any idea the trouble I went through? I climbed and climbed that cliff countless times. Whenever my fingers gave out and I thought I would die, I thought of my revenge." Hearing this, Siron thought with dread, "This is worse than I imagined." His anger must have truly reached its peak.
Ran shouted again, "Cat got your tongue? Do you think I did all this with just a little effort?" He stepped closer to Siran and snarled,
I asked for your help. I trusted you. But you turned your back on me.
Just looking at a coward like you makes me sick. Siran immediately retorted, "That's not it. I was just telling the truth."
Furious, Ran grabbed Siran's collar. "Don't you dare try to justify yourself. You should have just said you wouldn't follow my request back then."
His actions made Siran sweat nervously. It was never easy reasoning with powerful people like him.
Well then, Siran spoke to the young master. What should I do now? The question took Ran by surprise. What?
Looking at him, he thought, this is just a butler in my house, so what's with this calm attitude?
Then a sinister smile appeared on his face. "All right. You're looking down on me, aren't you?" With that, Ran led him away.
"I'll show you who I am. Follow me." He led him to an open space. Siran realized, isn't this the training ground?
Is he going to beat me until he's satisfied? It's better to take a beating than to die.
Bowing his head, Siran thought he couldn't waste the chance his parents risked their lives for. Ran tossed a wooden sword at him. Catch. Catching it with both hands, Siran looked at the wooden sword pointed at him.
Ran declared, "A duel. I'm not a coward like you. This is the price for looking down on me.
You, who are destined to become a great swordsman, will suffer under my blade." Hearing this, Siren shot back.
What? What did I do that was cowardly? Ran yelled. As a servant of the 𝐂𝐻𝐿 family, you must protect the house of 𝐂𝐻𝐿.
He then stared intently at Siran, his words filled with righteous fury.
"You sold me out to the master because you were afraid of getting hit. You sold out someone in trouble so cheaply." Seeing his passionate speech,
Siran froze, realizing his eyes had changed. Ran continued,
"It doesn't matter how my family ignores me, but what you did to me is what matters."
He then took his stance and told Siran to raise his sword. "Our skill gap is too vast, so I'll grant you the first 3 moves." Looking at him now, Siran was certain those were the eyes of a true member of the 𝐂𝐻𝐿 family. The wooden sword in his hands trembled.
A wooden sword is hard. If I break a bone, I'll be sent home. What do I do? What can I do?
Siran's eyes filled with turmoil. The only thing I can do is try it. I have 3 chances.
With that thought, Siran swung his sword hard at Ran. 1! A numbing pain shot through Siran's fingers. What is this strength?
Steeling himself, Siran gripped the sword with both hands again, striking down, but the young master easily blocked it.
As the 2 wooden swords clashed, Siran was no longer thrown back. This only intrigued Ran more as he counted.
He even taunted him. "Do you even know how to hold a sword?"
Gritting his teeth, Siran knew he had 1 chance left. Let's begin. As he spoke, Siran's pupils dilated. He entered his mental world and observed Ran.
Seeing his awkward form, Ran yelled, "What kind of stance is that?"
Siran warned, "It'll be harder to block if you don't use your strength." And so the wooden swords collided once more.
Ran declared smugly, "Fine. After this move, it's my turn." But he didn't notice the crack that had formed on his wooden sword.
While he was excitedly preparing his next attack, his sword suddenly shattered into pieces.
This left Ran completely stunned. Siran's wooden sword also crumbled away. But seeing this, Siran was ecstatic.
My gamble, it worked. His ragged breaths filled the air. I sensed his power with the first strike, calculated his timing with the second, and executed my plan with the third. The thunder strike I practiced for 3 years.
Meanwhile, Ran stared blankly at his broken sword. Then he turned to Siran. You... This made Siran extremely tense.
Ran's face was a mask of disbelief as he asked, "Where did you learn your swordsmanship?"
Siran explained to the young master, "This isn't a sword style, just thunder axe," which only confused Rian more.
Huh? Then Siran continued, "My father works on the mountain, and I just followed him, chopping trees. My body was too weak to cut wood normally. So, I created this technique to make the work easier for myself."
He elaborated. The lumberjacks call it thunder axe. But these words only deepened Rian's confusion. What on earth was he talking about?
Gritting his teeth, Ryan seethed with fury. He mastered a technique while chopping firewood? I've held a sword for 15 years. A sword art can't be learned from just cutting wood. Rian's story unfolded as 2 wooden swords clashed and instantly shattered. A long-haired boy stood holding a wooden sword, surrounded by words of praise.
Dia, that's incredible. I can't believe you've already used a finishing technique.
His father, the head of the Orente clan, and his swordmaster praised him endlessly. At only 12, you've mastered the family's secret art. I have nothing left to teach. You've already surpassed all your peers.
Meanwhile, Rian was sitting collapsed on the ground, his own wooden sword broken.
As a servant helped him up, his father paid him no mind, celebrating his other, more brilliant son.
Dia, you have inherited my genius. Let's hold a grand feast to celebrate.
That laughter, those expectations, were like daggers twisting in young Rian's heart. Back in the present, Rian couldn't stop thinking, "Why can't I catch up to him?" Seeing Rian's agitation, Siran spoke up. Young master?" But Rian just roared in despair. "I will not accept this." Seeing this, Siran interjected. "Young master, did I upset you in some way?"
Rian immediately snapped at him, "Shut up." And what Rian did next struck fear into Siram's heart. He drew a real sword from its sheath. The polished blade gleamed, and he gripped the hilt tightly.
Rian tossed it to Siran, ordering him to take it. Siran could only catch it, completely bewildered. Now Rian declared, "This duel isn't over yet.
If you've truly mastered a finishing blow, then I should treat you accordingly, shouldn't I?" He pointed directly at Siran and commanded, "1 month from now, we will duel here again, with real swords." Bowing his head, Siran felt utterly helpless, the cold steel trembling in his hands as he thought, "A real sword. I could actually die." Siran cried out, "Young master, please reconsider. I have never learned swordsmanship in my entire life." But Rian merely shot him a cold glare and said, "That's why I'm giving you time. If you can master a finishing blow just by chopping wood, you'll figure it out." He then threatened Siran, "And don't even think about running away, because I will definitely surpass you." The next morning, back in the Orente library, Siran was holding his head in utter stress.
Now I understand what's happening. According to the stories, the Orente clan members possess either black or blue hair. The black-haired clan head, Bobei, has 3 sons and 1 daughter. The eldest son, also with black hair, is a level 6 swordsman. The eldest daughter, with blue hair, is also exceptionally talented. She chose music over the sword, and is now a royal court musician. The second son, with black hair, is also considered a genius. Rian, however, is different from his remarkable siblings. According to the head butler's account, he is quite talentless, despite having a personal instructor. Everyone in the family knows this truth.
𝐶 buried his head in his hands, lost in thought. I've done something completely unnecessary.
I should have just let him hit me. Now, I've wounded the pride of someone who's always being compared to his siblings.
He slumped onto the table, shedding helpless tears.
Nobles always think they are superior. I thought I wouldn't die unless it was a question in a book. But if I die, the more he thought of his parents, the more trapped he felt. I don't have time for this. Think. I am going to become a mage. Ever since my days on the mountain, I've been confident in my stamina. 𝐶 laid out numerous books on the table. If I learn how to defend, I can survive this. Flipping through the pages, 𝐶 read with intense focus. I need to do everything within my power. Elsewhere, Rian's ragged screams echoed. He was running as if his feet were on fire. His master was thoroughly pleased. You've passed 100 laps, he said joyfully. You're already faster than your last record. What's gotten into you? I never thought I'd see you train so obediently. After finishing, Rian gasped for air, unable to even lift his head. Damn it. What kind of training is this? His words made his master's eyes pop with surprise. What did you just say? Rian shouted in a furious haze. I can still stand. Don't you have any tougher methods? Stroking his chin, the master looked at him with suspicion. What happened to you? Rian panted in reply. Nothing. The master wondered to himself. Is 𝐑𝐤 the cause of this again? Looking into Rian's determined eyes, he guessed, did 𝐑𝐤 learn a new technique? But 𝐑𝐤 has already awakened his true sword aura. The master shouted. Fine, but don't blame me if you die. He spoke of the force diagram, a phantom blueprint of the human body. Mages have their spirit zone, and swordsmen have the force diagram. While everyone has a sense of their own body, the diagram pushes it beyond all known limits. To master the diagram is to perfectly command every cell in your body. It is the ultimate goal of any true swordsman. Snapping the book shut, 𝐶 wondered, wait, isn't this the exact opposite of a spirit zone? Should I even attempt this? Closing his eyes, 𝐶 entered his inner world. The first step, sensing his own existence, was simple. It felt just like creating his zone. But where his zone required him to erase his self, the diagram demanded he delve deeper into his own being. If he could just pierce through this veil of darkness, he would complete the first page of the diagram. However, he recalled his first encounter with Ami. Focusing everything on the diagram, something so contrary to his spirit zone, would be a mistake. 𝐶 pondered about the girl from 3 years ago. Was her mastery of the diagram a fluke? To reach such a high level so young, she was unbelievable. Taking his blade to the training grounds, 𝐶 decided, it's better to learn basic swordsmanship using my spirit zone first. I'll start with the 8 fundamental slashes. He raised his sword and brought it down in a clean, straight line. The first slash straight down. Elsewhere, 𝐸𝐿's sword struck a wooden post again and again.
His master pleaded with him. "𝐸𝐿, you must stop." He worried. "At this rate, your muscles will tear themselves apart."
"They haven't torn yet," he replied, his strikes growing more frantic. "Damn it! Why won't my muscles just shatter already?"
Why hasn't this arm broken off? This desperate frenzy was enough to frighten even his stern master.
Tears streamed down 𝐸𝐿's face. He screamed in pure anguish. "Why can't I master the force diagram?"
Just then, his master's hand caught the blade. With a grim face, he said, "That's enough. We're done for today."
Later, the master applied a cold pack to his hand. The two sat watching the sunset together. The master finally asked, "What's on your mind?" 𝐸𝐿 only replied, "My hand hurts like hell." His master then said, "𝐸𝐿, did you know?" "I never realized you could try this hard." Holding the ice pack, 𝐸𝐿 answered, "Yes, now you've seen it. I need to get stronger."
The master calmly replied, "But I believe you've already done an amazing job."
Have you ever considered what you're best at? 𝐸𝐿 replied, I don't know. I only know the things I fail at.
The master said, "Precisely, and that's why you are not a genius."
Don't say it like that. I already know that. Are you mocking me? But his master continued, "Geniuses know they are geniuses, and they know exactly what they excel at. That is why, when a genius puts in the effort, they only practice actions they are 100% certain they'll succeed at." Meanwhile, Saran buried himself in even more books. Just as the master had said, what geniuses truly fear in others is diligence, the burning will to achieve the impossible, a determination to defy all limits. That is the true rival of a genius. The rival of a genius. Bowing his head, 𝐸𝐿 smiled. "Of all the encouragement I've ever heard, I like that the most." 𝐸𝐿's hands still trembled as he thought, "That's right. If I wasn't born with talent, then I will grind it out through pure hard work." His face hardened with resolve. "I will absolutely be victorious." On the other side of the estate, Saran was also pushing himself relentlessly. He practiced tirelessly with his sword, a single question echoing in his mind. What truly is swordsmanship? It is the art of taking a life, but it is also a psychological war of life and death. He imagined an invisible foe, an enemy who could strike from countless directions. Through his practice, Saran committed the forms to memory. In a real battle, there are 8 primary lines of attack. Within a month, he had drilled those 8 slashes and mastered every single one. But that was only in his imagination. A blade descended upon his head from above, and so the first exchange began. Just like that, Saran began to see the natural flow of all 8 fundamental slashes. In his mindscape, he had to find a counter for every attack. Then, a realization struck him. Saran's eyes shot wide open. He saw that there weren't just 8 paths, but hundreds of them swirling around him. He lowered his sword and began to laugh. So this is the path swordsmen walk. Looking up at the sky, he thought, the world of the sword is just as limitless as magic. He then sheathed his blade and said aloud, "Father, Mother, I'm sorry. It seems I can never go back. Staring up at that same sky, 𝐶iran thought of his home and said, "But I have no regrets. Even though this path is one of life and death, I have witnessed a truly magnificent world." And finally, the day of the duel between 𝐶iran and Ryan arrived.
Flames flickered across the earthen floor.
Ran stepped forward, radiating absolute confidence. Facing him was the small 𝐶iran. Seeing him, Ran drew his sword and gave the signal to begin.
He slowly unsheathed his blade, but his eyes widened in shock. For 𝐶iran to radiate such an aura after only 1 month. At that moment, 𝐶iran simply stood ready.
Ran recalled 𝐶iran's previous form, where his posture and balance were completely chaotic. He likely had never even learned swordsmanship. Ran's expression soured. To be this calm while holding a real sword for the first time.
Did he possess talent like his brother? Shaking off the thought, he charged 𝐶iran, telling himself he had to win. He absolutely had to win.
He lunged forward in a direct assault. 𝐶iran could only hold his defensive stance, eyes glaring as he thought, "His swordsmanship is incredible. His sword skills are on a completely different level than mine."
But I can feel the path of his blade, just as I saw in his training. Instantly, 𝐶iran leaned away, dodging Ran's powerful slash.
The sword's edge swept past 𝐶iran's face, yet he showed no fear, simply leaning back to evade the blow.
This left Ran even more astonished.
He's observing the blade itself, he thought.
This brat isn't afraid of my blade? Meanwhile, 𝐶iran thought, "It's not that I don't fear death, but that fear belongs to the future. A future that has not yet arrived." The feeling is like standing at the edge of a great abyss.
If you cannot imagine the next step, you will surely fall into that abyss.
He isn't just prepared for death. He has completely mastered his emotions, envisioning his own path forward. Ran raised his sword to his face and declared, "But I am not the one who fears death." He once again gripped his blade and charged forward.
𝐶iran instantly predicted the attack from the right and raised his sword to block. Just as he calculated, Ran's blade was stopped cold.
Ran's eyes blazed as he thought, then how about this? With a flick of his wrist, he changed the blade's trajectory.
There is a wall that cannot be overcome with simple tricks.
A relentless storm of slashes rained down, forcing 𝐶iran to defend. He tensed, blocking the blows, thinking, his strikes are both fast and heavy. His swing is becoming faster than my ability to predict its path.
Ran continued his powerful assault, landing a clean slash across 𝐶iran's chest.
Damn it! Sparks of defiance flared in 𝐶iran's eyes. Am I going to lose? He wondered. Meanwhile, Ran continued his merciless, frenzied attack. A devastating blow forced 𝐶iran to stumble back, catching himself on the ground, panting heavily. His face, smudged with dirt, was etched with exhaustion, as a strange thought crossed his mind.
How is this possible? Just then, another of Ran's attacks came crashing down. 𝐶iran struggled to raise his sword and block it.
Ran burst into laughter and taunted. Surprising, isn't it? Have you finally realized? Seeing the heavily injured 𝐶iran, Ran gloated internally. This is the Owen greatsword style. How could you possibly withstand it? Every single slash contains my bone-shattering effort. 𝐶iran's heart pounded raggedly as Ran roared in his face. I will crush you with my power. Let's begin. Instantly, Ran unleashed a wide horizontal slash toward Siron.
But it seemed Siron had realized something. This is strange, he thought, observing every one of Ron's movements.
If he had slashed upward after striking my chest, I would have been cut in two. Why does he keep using such large moves?
After a few more exchanges, Siron understood. I see. His true understanding of swordsmanship is far shallower than I thought. He is proficient with a sword, but he doesn't truly understand how to use it. If that's the case, I can lower my assessment of his combat ability.
Siron's mind began to calculate and evaluate. He immediately raised his sword, blocking Ran's attack.
Pivoting, Siron gripped his sword with both hands, changing his plan. He would now attack. Ren began to look slightly surprised. Ran's jaw dropped at Siron's sudden offensive. What? Suddenly, none of his own strikes could touch Siron. This made Ran hesitate. He's attacking? But wasn't he completely exhausted?
Siron then pressed his attack relentlessly, forcing Ran to retreat.
Damn it. These are all simple strikes. Why can't I block them?
As this continued, Ran grew more frantic, unable to keep up with Siron. Siron, however, continued to land strike after strike.
His opponent's stamina was draining, while he conserved his own. This fact made Ran's blood boil with bitter rage.
He refused to accept this reality. This can't be happening. It's impossible.
Whenever he felt inferior, memories of the past flooded back, the moment his father praised his brother. Ha ha ha! Jay, you are brilliant. Let's hold a great feast.
That laughter echoed in Ren's head over the years, as Jai-O-N's eyes looked down on him like a failure.
Jay gave Ryan a contemptuous smile. The obsession became unbearable, and Ren let out a furious, desperate roar. That bastard! Losing all composure, Ryan charged like a beast, unleashing a relentless assault. I will become the greatest swordsman in the world. But contrary to his belief, Siron met his blade, stopping it cold. What? Refusing to give up, Ryan's rage flared, his composure completely gone. At this point, Ryan was just attacking blindly, making Siron wonder, has he given up on strategy? Is he even thinking clearly? Entering his mental world, Siron saw an unpredictable storm of sword paths he couldn't possibly read. There were too many random trajectories. He was just swinging with desperate abandon. And while Siron was struggling to keep up, a blade slipped through, slashing across his side. It was a blow he couldn't dodge. A loud crack echoed, and the image of the sword appeared in a void of darkness. It turned out to be his own weapon, falling through the air and plunging into the ground. Siron was so tired he could barely breathe, struggling to steady each gasp. Ryan was also panting from exhaustion. Then Ryan bowed his head, unable to accept his defeat. This is Huff impossible, he spoke between heavy breaths. How could this happen? In those final moments, Ryan had charged like a feral beast.
Even if I die here today, I will never regret being your friend." Those words resonated deep within Rian's heart.
"That's right," he roared back at his father. "That's exactly what I mean. We are friends, even if I'm cast out for it."
Reyna was moved by their bond, thinking to herself, "We may be young, but we still have hearts that feel." A true friend never turns their back on you. Everyone has a friend like that.
Or longs for one. Her words brought tears to the eyes of everyone watching.
The head butler bit his lip in frustration. Suddenly, a booming laugh echoed from above. Now this is interesting.
Rena's face lit up. It was Rian and Gina's grandfather, a powerfully built man with blue hair and an amused expression.
He declared, "I never thought I'd see such a moving scene in my old age. Youth truly is the best."
Rian was overjoyed, thinking everything is fine now. The current Lord Ozin saw his father and stammered, "Father, you're here?"
Jaina told me it would be a few more days. The old man sat down, explaining, "I came early because my friend ran off with a young lady."
Upon seeing him, Saran was stunned. That man was Tomia's great general and a Tier 3 swordsman, Rian's grandfather. He sat next to his son and mused, "Well, this place is as noisy as ever. To be young again."
The former patriarch, Grumman, watched as his son, the current lord, said with a sour face,
"It's not so wonderful in this situation. Our family's image has been shattered." But Grumman just chuckled. "Don't be so quick to judge. I've been watching from the back for quite a while, and it's clear that many people here have much to say. So, before we decide if our honor is lost, why don't we hear from everyone first?" First, witness 1, the eldest daughter, Rena Oren. She spoke clearly. "Though I only met Siron yesterday, I could tell he is a very intelligent and talented young man." She tried her best to explain the situation. Furthermore, Siron fulfilled all his contractual duties and was supposed to leave the estate today. Considering this, it's hard to believe Siron approached Rian with any malicious intent. As a result, I don't believe his actions have stained our family's honor. Grumman stroked his chin and said, I see. If that's the case..." He then turned his gaze. "Jian, what do you think?" "My second grandson, witness 2, Jian Orent." Jian scowled and said bluntly, "I don't like that kid." His father's heart soared with relief.
Yes, I knew I could count on you, my son.
But Jian continued, "However, this has nothing to do with me." His father's face went pale. "What did you say?"
He turned on his son, demanding, "What do you mean? You dislike him, but you don't care." John replied, "Exactly. I don't like the kid, but who Rian befriends is none of my business. I just want this over with, so we can leave for the royal palace." This was just as Gina had predicted. Wow, my little brother's attitude. Grumman laughed again. This is exactly why there's no place like home.
Finally, let's hear from the one who has surely observed the boy Siran the longest.
Next, the vice butler. Witness 3, Vice Butler Temeron. Before he could speak, the head butler gave him a sharp look. The head butler sent a silent message to Temeran, who thought, "I know what you're implying.
That we are not to have our own opinions, but only to follow our master's will." After a tense moment, he finally spoke. "Chiron performed the duties I assigned, and he completed them perfectly.
The head butler was stunned, a flicker of rage in his eyes.
Timorin continued. Moreover, he finished his work a full 6 months ahead of schedule.
The head butler seethed internally. What in the world does he think he's doing?
Just then, Grumman asked Timorin directly, "Did you know the 2 boys were friends?" The vice-butler bowed respectfully. "I knew he often went out with the young master, even if I didn't know they were friends. But from my perspective, if he were truly unruly, he never could have sorted 10,000 books." Hearing Lord Timorin's defense, 𝐒𝐒 was deeply moved.
The vice-butler watched the scene, thinking, "Excellent. The entire atmosphere has shifted." The only one still demanding 𝐒𝐒's punishment was his father. Head 𝐒𝐒 remained silent, clearing his throat. But suddenly, Lord Clump declared, "No, I cannot agree to this."
Rena cried out in alarm, "Grandfather," while 𝐒𝐒 looked on with a glimmer of hope.
Lord Clump explained, "No, I understand they consider each other friends.
However, it must end here. If this bond continues, rumors will eventually spread. This will become a weakness our political rivals can seize upon and use against us.
Every member of our family is a prominent figure in this kingdom. Some are even preparing for their official certifications. What am I to do when so many families depend on me? 𝐒𝐒, you're a smart boy. I trust you will understand."
Rena watched anxiously, but Ran was seething with defiance. Lord Clump thought to himself, "You have such potential and intelligence, Ran. Why can't you comprehend what I'm saying?
You know the heavy burden of countless lives." He then turned to 𝐒𝐒 and asked, "What do you think, 𝐒𝐒?"
"I want to thank you for teaching my naive grandson what true friendship is.
But can you please let it end here?"
After a tense silence, 𝐒𝐒's answer was resolute.
"I cannot."
The entire family froze in shock. Ran was at a loss for words. 𝐒𝐒 continued, "If I am an obstacle for Ran, I will accept never seeing him again."
However, 𝐒𝐒 spoke from the heart. "That does not mean I can stop seeing him as a friend. Ran and I are friends.
As long as that is understood, I will obey any other order you give." 𝐒𝐒's words only stirred Ran's emotions even more. He gripped his sword hilt and thought, "How shameful. I was actually relieved that 𝐒𝐒 wouldn't have to die."
Honestly, a part of me felt that way. Tears began to stream down Ran's face again.
But 𝐒𝐒 understood that abandoning a friend was the same as abandoning a part of oneself. Fine. This isn't a negotiation anyway. He raised his high sword and declared loudly, "Here, I make this vow."
The act left Lord Clump and Rena frozen in terror. She screamed, "Don't! I don't know what you're planning, but stop it!" Meanwhile, Ran plunged his sword firmly into the floor. He knelt before 𝐒𝐒, his voice thundering with an oath.
"I, Rian Oren, third son of the Oren family, will become 𝐒𝐒's sword from this moment forward."
𝐒𝐒's face turned purple with rage. "What is this, you damned fool?" he roared with all his might. "You idiot!"
The knight's oath originated when the 𝐀𝐤 kingdom was founded. In an age of chaos, nations large and small
Fought over territory. 𝐻𝐻, the strongest among them,
succeeded in unifying the land and declared the founding of the 𝐀𝐤 kingdom. But the new nation had to defend against powerful neighbors.
So, instead of being purged during the unification,
the defeated kings were allowed to rule their own domains directly.
in exchange,
They took the knight's oath, swearing to become a sword wielded only by their master. This act granted them the status of nobility.
That was the origin of the knight's oath, and the very birth of the aristocracy.
Therefore, to break this oath was to become more despicable than a mad dog. Ran laughed and asked, "So what do you think?"
There's no taking it back now, is there? At this act, Ran's family could only stare, utterly aghast.
Ran thought, "Master, it seems I've caused a catastrophe. You must be so disappointed. You didn't give me this sword for this."
𝐂𝐒ron grabbed Ran's hand, pulling him up in a panic. "Ran, what in the world are you doing?" His grandfather spoke up. "Ran, if I am to witness you become his sword, then that boy must be worthy of it, correct?"
Answer me. Is he truly that talented?
Or does he only seem so in your eyes because you are useless? Ran smiled, then stood with dignity and replied, "A sword does not judge. It only protects."
His words left everyone stunned into silence. Suddenly, Lord Clump's laughter shattered the tension.
Lord Clump covered his face, laughing like a madman. Yes, to reach the top, immature brats must be willing to go this far. He then immediately rose to his feet.
He approached 𝐂𝐒ron, remarking to Ron, "You've got a sharp tongue, kid.
But with swordsmanship as pathetic as yours, I pity your friend for receiving such a blade." Ran shot back angrily. "Grandfather." Placing a hand on 𝐂𝐒ron's shoulder, Crump announced that it was enough. Everything was now settled.
He may not be the sharpest sword yet, but 𝐂𝐒ron will never betray you. Take good care of my grandson."
𝐂𝐒𝐤ron bowed his head in acceptance before looking up at the old man. He spoke,
"Thank you for acknowledging me, sir." Then the patriarch commanded the head butler, "Since these two have sworn a lifelong bond, we cannot let him leave like this. Deputy butler, use the carriage 𝐂𝐒𝐤ron was meant to take and bring his parents here." The man stammered.
"Yes, right now? But is this for real?" While he stood there stunned, the butlers behind him exchanged amused smirks.
𝐂𝐒𝐤ron could only think to himself that he would never understand the minds of nobles.
After the trial, Ran was absolutely euphoric. That was so satisfying. He rolled on his bed and asked 𝐂𝐒𝐤ron, "Did you see the look on my family's faces?"
"It was priceless," 𝐂𝐒𝐤ron added. "But the knight's oath, you didn't need to do that for me."
Rian simply replied, "𝐂𝐒𝐤ron, I didn't do it just because you're my friend. I'm different from my brother. You have the power to draw others to you, and I am simply betting my life on that potential."
𝐂𝐒𝐤ron's face instantly flushed red as he stammered,
"What? Why are you suddenly saying things like that again? It's too much pressure."
𝐂𝐒𝐤ron tried to hide his embarrassment, adding, "But if you intend to protect me, you'll have to train much harder than this." Hearing that, Ron practically coughed up blood. 𝐂𝐒𝐤ron asked, "What's wrong?" He quickly replied, "Nothing. You just landed a critical blow on my spirit." At that moment, Jenna stormed into Ren's room, shouting his name. "Ren, did you really swear the knight's oath to become 𝐂𝐒𝐤ron's sword?" Seeing him lying in a pool of his own despair, she asked, "What happened to him?" Ran told Jenna to get out, but 𝐂𝐒𝐤ron interjected. "What are you saying? Your sister was a huge help to us just a moment ago." He then invited Jenna in. "Please, come in." She entered, saying, "That's right, and I bring crucial information from the opposition."
Rian's interest was immediately piqued. What is it? What are father and grandfather planning now?
Sitting down, Jenna explained. They're still bloodthirsty, but you played the Knight's Oath as your trump card. They're planning their next move.
So, for now, father is thinking about enrolling you and 𝐸 into the Ken Sword Arts Academy.
Siren, didn't you say your swordsmanship was terrifying? You said it with your own mouth.
𝐸 was shocked. To that extent? She replied. Of course, you're a member of the family now. I've already told them all about your talent. Let's see if they're willing to voluntarily invest in you.
For Ran's future, they'll surely want to help you succeed. But Ron protested. Without my permission.
Who dares send me to school? I finally get to spend as much time with 𝐸 as I want.
For that, he earned a swift kick from Jenna. You two blockheads, after all this chaos, what more do you want to cause?
Ran complained again. Besides, 𝐸 isn't even going to a sword academy. He's a future mage. He's already awakened his spiritual realm.
Jenna was stunned. What? A spiritual realm? Siren has awakened it already.
She continued, Wait, does that mean you swore the Knight's Oath to a future mage? There's a limit to being useless. Furious, Ren yelled at her to get out.
The old hag, Rena, realized it. So you used synesthesia to perceive the spiritual world and read Ren's movements to win. She exclaimed, That's quite clever. Since your spiritual energy is so high, this should certainly be possible.
Siren asked blankly, Is that so? Rena replied, You're amazing.
From what I learned at the academy, the denser the energy, the more stable the spiritual world. Maintaining that density with a sword is incredible. This compliment made 𝐸 blush and scratched his head. Rena teased him. Getting shy already? At the same time, Rena added, I will inform grandfather about 𝐸's path. Of course, your enrollment in the academy will be a condition.
Ran immediately asked, What? Then what will happen to my master?
She told him that Master Kai already knew. He ended his contract yesterday and will say his farewells tomorrow morning.
Ren was shocked. Huh?
He looked down at the sword in his hand and whispered, Master. But Master Kai had already departed from the mansion.
A butler entered the room and announced, Young Master Siren, your family has arrived and is waiting in the drawing room.
The patriarch said, You may go see them first, if you wish. Ran looked over. What do you think, 𝐸?
Without a moment's hesitation, 𝐸 said, I'll go. The butlers immediately began to fuss over him. The stairs, please be careful on the stairs. 𝐸 said awkwardly, You can just speak to me as you did before. Acting like this is a bit...
The chubby butler exclaimed, My lord, no! Please don't say such things, or we'll lose our heads. 𝐸 reassured him, Don't worry, I won't tell a soul.
But his opinion didn't matter. In the guest room, the moment 𝐸 opened the door, Mr. and Mrs. Vincent were already waiting.
Overjoyed, he cried out, Mom! Dad! His father shot to his feet, calling 𝐸's name.
Siren rushed to his parents as the three embraced tightly. Looking at them, he saw they had grown thinner.
They must have suffered through sleepless nights, worrying endlessly about him.
Mr. Vincent said, Don't worry, we're fine. But why call us here? If your work is done, you should have come home.
They aren't keeping you here against your will, are they? 𝐸 replied, Not at all. In fact, I've been given a great opportunity. His father was stunned.
What?
His mother wiped away a tear and asked, "What kind of opportunity?" Sciron then told his parents everything.
The story left Mr. and Mrs. Vincent utterly speechless. Mr. Vincent couldn't believe his ears, his eyes wide with shock. Leaping to his feet, he asked Sciron with a joyful tremor, "Ha, so you mean to say—" "At the library, I befriended a young lord from a noble house. He even swore a knight's oath to me, officially allowing me to be his companion."
"Yes, that's right," Sciron answered. His father pressed on. "Sciron, tell your father the truth." Overcome with disbelief, he couldn't stop shaking him.
How could a smart boy like you fall for such a fantasy? Someone is mistreating you, aren't they?
"Aren't they?" As the world spun, Sciron managed to say, "No, it's true." His father simply hugged him and wept.
Oh, dear heavens. They say that those who serve nobles never return in one piece, my son.
Sciron's mother tried her best to calm her husband. Just then, a voice announced from outside, "The young master and the lord have arrived."
The 𝐒𝐒 family entered. The head spoke first. "A pleasure to meet you both. I am the lord of this house."
Beside him, Ron bowed deeply. "Greetings, sir. I am Sciron's sworn sword." Rian and even Jenna, the eldest daughter, were there.
Reyna added, "I have heard so much about you." Witnessing this, Mr. and Mrs. Vincent were frozen, as if struck by lightning.
They scrambled to their feet and bowed low. "Greetings. We are Sciron's parents."
"For such great people to address us," Lord 𝐒𝐒 replied. "Oh my, haven't you heard from Sciron?" Mr. Vincent gasped in shock.
"You mean the wild fantasies our boy spoke of were real?" "Impossible. It's impossible." Later, they were invited to a banquet at the 𝐒𝐒 estate.
Seated at the grand table, Mr. and Mrs. Vincent's souls nearly left their bodies. "My dear, there are so many forks."
Mr. Vincent's mind was racing. What in the world is happening? After the meal, they were served tea.
Sciron's mother graciously thanked the maid. After dinner, the 𝐒𝐒s met with them. Mr. Vincent trembled, holding his cup of chamomile tea. He thought, even if I don't know what a knight's oath is, there's no way they'd treat a woodcutter's family this well. I have to get to the bottom of this. Though still shaking, Mr. Vincent composed himself and asked, "Forgive me. I'm glad you value my son so highly, but I am also terribly worried. For a young lord of House 𝐒𝐒 to swear a knight's oath to Sciron, it's unbelievable." The head of House 𝐒𝐒 replied, "Indeed."
To be honest, I also found it unsettling. However, for a militaristic family like House 𝐒𝐒, a knight's oath is absolute. These words made Vincent tremble even more.
The Lord continued, "Therefore, from now on, we will address you with formal respect.
Do not feel burdened. Our family will give our son your full support." The grandfather next to him chimed in, "It's been a while since you've said something so correct." The Lord simply replied, "Father, please." Sciron thought, as the head of this house, he decides all of its most important matters.
Those decisive and proud words truly suit a man of his stature.
He may have struggled with protecting a commoner, but in the end, he fears no one's judgment.
Over on Ron's side, he was grinning, giving Sciron a thumbs up. Lord 𝐒𝐒 continued, "To get straight to the point, your son is a user of the mental world."
The mental world is not something one can attain through hard work alone.
To put it plainly, it is a true, innate talent he was born with.
From what I understand,
The boy aims to become a mage. If he wants to earn his certification as quickly as possible.
Lord 𝐒𝐒 suggested. Then I believe the Alpheus Magic Academy, one of the 5 most prestigious schools in the nation, is the only suitable choice.
Raising a hand to his chin, he said, I'm not saying it's the only path to becoming a mage.
But to do otherwise would waste his talent, which I cannot condone. He must attend Alpheus to meet the standards of House 𝐒𝐒.
The grandfather, Kump, coughed. Son, try to consider their perspective.
While the Lord and his father conversed, Mr. Vincent was breaking out in a cold sweat across from them.
Then Lord 𝐒𝐒 said it plainly. If your son graduates from that academy, he will become a full-fledged mage. The news was overwhelming.
Vincent shot up from his chair, declaring, Our son will become a mage. A magic academy, he thought, then gasped to 𝐶iRaN, This can't be real. Is this a dream? But Lord 𝐒𝐒 cut in. However, the biggest problem is his status.
Vincent froze at those words. Lord 𝐒𝐒's expression grew heavy with concern.
The Magic Academy is highly selective, admitting only children of the nobility, 𝐶𝐿 explained. There is only one solution. We will adopt 𝐶iRaN into the 𝐒𝐒 family. The words hung in the air. Vincent stared in disbelief, sputtering. What did you say? Lord 𝐒𝐒 continued. This is the only way. Our family has already reached a consensus. He produced a document. I have a cousin who remains childless. If we add the boy's name to his family registry, the matter will be settled. Rest assured, we have no intention of stealing your son. It is merely on paper. Through this, 𝐶iRaN will become a noble. Vincent's face was a mask of shock, unable to process what he was hearing. Seeing his son's cold expression, Vincent wondered, has he already decided? Just then, 𝐶iRaN took his father's hand, which was slick with a cold sweat. He held both his parents' hands and finally gave his answer. Absolutely not. I am my father's son. I cannot be adopted by another family. His firm refusal left everyone in the room stunned. His father could only stare, speechless. Ray tried to reason with him. 𝐶iRaN, it's just a title. We would still treat your parents as your true parents. You can achieve your dream. Nothing else has to change. 𝐶𝐿 added, you would become a noble kid. Opportunities like this are rare. But 𝐶iRaN's reply was unwavering. If I must trade my father, I would rather live and die a commoner. Enraged, 𝐶𝐿 shot back. A commoner cannot enter the Magic Academy. 𝐶iRaN replied, Then I will not go. Then you can never become a mage, 𝐶𝐿 pressed. Amidst the shocked silence, 𝐶iRaN met his gaze and declared, Then I will not be a mage. That was the last straw. 𝐶𝐿 shot up from his seat, roaring, 𝐶iRaN, why must you be so stubborn? This world isn't so simple, he bellowed. There are things you must be willing to discard to succeed. If you can't even do that, is your dream nothing more than a childish fantasy? 𝐶iRaN's simple reply silenced him. Perhaps it is. The answer left 𝐶𝐿 speechless. What? Vincent bit his lip, tears of pride welling in his eyes. 𝐶iRaN continued, No matter how grand my dream is, it came from my parents. If my parents are the roots, then my dream is the fruit that grows from their nourishment. He explained, learning to read, the chance to work here. I gained all of it because my parents
are my foundation.
This is just one opportunity. It's nothing compared to the countless chances they have given me.
Saran looked directly at 𝐀𝐤. To ask me to deny my own roots is the same as asking me to die.
I am grateful for the offer, but they are my only parents. His words left the 𝐂𝐒 family completely frozen in astonishment. 𝐀𝐤 thought to himself, what is this crushing feeling of guilt? No, what this child is trying to say. Suddenly, Vincent bowed deeply. Please adopt Siren, he begged. I am pleading with you.
Saran was utterly floored. Father, 𝐀𝐤 began, I understand, but Saran's wishes also matter.
But Vincent cut him off. Siran is not my biological son. The moment the words left his lips, his wife gasped. Vincent, what are you saying? Vincent confessed, his voice heavy with sorrow. We were unable to have children.
With his head still bowed, he explained. Saran came to us by a twist of fate. I'm sure you can see it. He must come from a noble line.
He is destined for greater things. If a noble family adopts him, he will finally return to where he truly belongs.
This stunning revelation shook the blue-haired family to their core. Vincent pressed on. So you see, he wouldn't be abandoning his roots at all.
Lord 𝐂𝐒 pondered silently. Could it be true?
Saran looked nothing like his parents. The confession left both Saran and his mother in a state of shock. Lord 𝐂𝐒 wondered, is he truly willing to give up his son? Siron rushed to his father's side. Father, what are you doing?
He threw his arms around him, his voice trembling. How could you say that without telling me first?
Vincent choked back tears. I'm sorry, but you're grown now. It was time you knew the truth. Siran's voice cracked. Did you really think I didn't know? He lowered his head. I never asked. Because a person has only one father and one mother. That's all I ever wanted. And now you're trying to give me away. Vincent looked up, his face streaked with tears. I didn't want you to abandon your dream because of me. Siren fell to his knees, his own tears now flowing freely. Who's abandoning anything? If I work hard, another chance will come, he cried out. But Father, did you ever stop to think about how I would feel? Who wants to be abandoned by their parents twice? Trembling, Vincent took Siran's hand. It's all because of me. He pulled his son into a tight embrace. Everything is my fault. Siran, I will never abandon you again. His tears began to fall. Please, forgive this foolish father of yours. You are my entire world. The sight of the family's tearful reunion left the 𝐂𝐒 household speechless. Hearing the words, 𝐀𝐤 reflected. Sometimes what we do for our children can wound them. Being a parent is truly a difficult path. He then turned to his own son. Didn't you also struggle raising your child alone? Lord 𝐂𝐒 winced, the memories still painful. His gaze fell upon his son, Rian, who was also moved to tears. This touching scene even brought a tear to Rina's eye. Just then, the head of the 𝐂𝐒 family spoke. Father, I hear Alpheus Magic Academy has special admissions. Perhaps you could help. 𝐀𝐤 scoffed. Ha! What can an old man like me do? How could I possibly persuade that stubborn Alpheus? Vincent immediately interjected. Is it really impossible?
I heard he owes you a great debt. A sly grin spread across Clump's face. Ah, for a man who lives by the rules, isn't a little stubbornness the best weapon?
I used that very method to make you the family head. Clump then added, "It was all for your own good, of course."
3 days later, after Rion left for the Sword Academy, the family head allowed us to stay at the 𝐂𝐤 estate. My father still carried a heavy guilt. I wondered how long his remorse would last this time. That evening, the two young men slept side by side. Ron and I finally had a moment of peace.
While Ron laughed with pure joy, Saran also enjoyed a relaxing time with his best friend.
And then 3 days passed. Saran saw Ron off to the Sword Academy. Ron began to cry like a child, his sobs catching Saran's attention. Saran tried to comfort him. "Rian, don't cry." But the tears just kept streaming down his friend's face.
How can I not cry? Once I'm on that carriage, it's goodbye. Why can't I enroll next year with you?
Siren replied, "It's not certain I'll get special admission. Besides, we can still see each other during the holidays."
"Just write to me every day, okay?" Ron placed a hand on Saran's shoulder. "Saran, you must become a great mage."
"And I'll become the strongest knight to protect you," Saran promised. "I will. Now, focus on graduating. Your sister worries about you the most."
As a lump formed on Rian's head from a flick, Rena turned to Saran.
"Saran, don't you worry. Just enjoy this time with your family. My grandfather will definitely get you into the academy."
"Yes," Saran replied, bowing his head. "Thank you for all your help, my lord."
What a strange child, Rena thought, looking at Saran. At first, I thought he was just a cute kid.
But seeing his kind expression, she mused, he's so thoughtful, and he held on to his beliefs in that terrifying situation. "Saran, maybe when you graduate."
She stopped herself mid-thought. What am I even thinking?
He's just a child, about to enter a completely new world. No, just do your best. You'll become a great mage.
Please take care of Rian. With that, Rena pulled her younger brother onto the carriage. Rian waved one last time before joining his parents. The carriage began to move. Ron's carriage sped forward. Saran's followed close behind. From the window, Ron's voice called out Saran's name, who immediately looked out.
In the carriage ahead, Ron stuck his head out the window and yelled, "When you get to the Magic Academy, you better show them all what you've got."
Saran smiled and shouted back, "You too." The fateful meeting of these two passionate young men would be remembered as the event that shattered the continent's balance. And with that, the two carriages departed. Elsewhere, a mother dove tended to her young. One pure white fledgling took flight.
Its destination, the majestic Alpheus Magic Academy. Inside, an elegantly dressed man set his teacup down with a sigh.
Clump finally spoke. "You've been thinking for 30 minutes. I assume the answer is yes?"
The old headmaster replied, "Though we have been friends for 50 years, I simply cannot accept your proposal."
Clump's anger flared. "What did you say? Do you have any idea how much I suffered because of you in our youth?"
This must be serious for you to bring up such ancient history. The headmaster poured more tea. But special admission is not a back door for nobles. We receive countless requests each year, and this path has its own strict standards. Clump eyed him suspiciously, thinking, "This sly old fox, he made me wait 30 minutes. For nothing." He decided to press harder. This time is different. The headmaster's eyebrow raised. It seems it is important.
It's been a long time since I've seen that look on your face. I'm not asking you to accept a useless child. Quite the opposite.
A smile touched Clump's lips. The boy is a friend of my youngest grandson, and he is brilliant. Do you know what I thought when I met him?
I thought I was looking at a younger version of you. Lifting his cup, the headmaster asked, if he is so talented, why not enroll through normal means?
If that's the case, there's a problem, Clum said, resting his chin on his hand.
Oh, a huge problem. He's not a noble, the headmaster exclaimed. Why couldn't he be a golden-haired, blue-eyed child?
Siran's words still echoed in his mind. I would face death without regret for having been your friend. That was my first impression of him.
Lord Clam's words ring true, he continued. I once thought he was merely a clever child, skilled at manipulating adults. However, after I offered to adopt him, he said asking him to deny his origins was like asking him to walk towards his own death.
After recounting the tale, Clum covered his face and laughed. Does that even make any sense to you?
Who would refuse to become a noble? Stroking his beard, the headmaster spoke of the natural law of cause and effect.
Immediately, Trump interjected. Indeed, without a cause, there can be no effect. However, not everyone understands this rule, and they easily lose themselves. A new chance can appear at any moment. But the moment a person denies their roots, they lose everything. They lose the power to decide what they believe is right.
Does that perhaps remind you of yourself when you were young?
This question plunged the headmaster deep into thought. Then the headmaster replied, their refusal to compromise means others might agree with their truths, but it also means they will be judged. That is what I find dangerous. Clum clicked his tongue in sorrow. You still haven't forgiven yourself, have you? You've already done everything you possibly could. You've raised so many talents. Isn't it time you forgave yourself?
The headmaster laughed. To say I should forgive myself is far too arrogant of me, my friend.
Looking out at the academy grounds, he said, I teach children to prevent another monster, like myself, from ever appearing again.
If that boy is as much like me as you say, what guarantees he won't walk the same terrible path I once did?
Clum replied, you were Anphes, a genius that appears only once in a century. You, who were once seen as the light of the Milch family, walked the wrong path just once and nearly lost it all. But in the end, you returned.
These words made the headmaster stroke his long beard, lost in contemplation.
Clump then added, of course, who knew you'd become the headmaster of an academy in such a remote place? The headmaster replied,
What? Then the heavens must have helped you. A talentless fool becoming a third-rank official knight.
I worry for the future of the 𝐀𝐤 kingdom. And with that, the two old men burst into roaring laughter. Suddenly, Anphes stood up. He walked to the window, gazing out. Without a cause, there can be no effect. Clamp poured another cup of tea. Is this fate? Who would have thought you knew that boy? The child who was cast out 4 years ago has returned. Smiling, Anphes scoffed. I don't believe in things like fate. But he thought, and yet, a talent buried by the barrier of class has wandered for 4 years and now stands before me. Is this truly not fate? He immediately turned to Clum and declared, I will accept Siran. In the spring, 3 years later, a carriage was approaching the Olean estate.
Siran slowly stepped out, calling, "Mother? Father? I'll be back soon." He was now a young man.
Siran Aryan, age 17. He hugged his mother tightly. "My lovely son, I'll miss you so much. I'll write often."
Siran then asked, "But does my hair look all right? I've never had it this way, so it feels strange."